but also the, improv, because I remember the last performance of Robin Hood. The swords broke. And I remember Josiah literally just pick up his sword, even though there's no hilt on it. He just dual wielding two swords.
I remember seeing this because,
yes.
Gabe was the one that broke it, and
yes.
he broke it. He's like, "Ha!" or something
yes.
like that.
Hello and welcome to the Actor Studio Podcast, our monthly show where we take a look down memory lane, rediscovering what made OHS Drama Club so special to us. Today, I'm your host, Caleb Riemenschneider, and we have a very special guest, I'll say. A very dear friend of mine, someone who I've known for so long at this point. And, he's my partner in crime, the beast himself, Josiah Vitalis. Can we get an applause?
How are we doing?
Yes.
We swapped seats this time.
Yes, we did. Yes. So today I will be hosting the Actor Studio Podcast. And as I said, this is a monthly podcast. So stay tuned next month where we will have even more podcasts for you.
We got a good one next month.
Yes. And stay tuned until the end of this episode where we will be announcing what we have plans for the next podcast. Yeah. Our plans for the episode. Yeah. But besides all that, and, get all that wrapped up, let's get some updates on your life, Josiah.
All right.
Tell us about yourself. You've been through quite a lot since college, and I would, and the audience would definitely like to know what you've been up to. So.
Yeah, so we talked about it last week. Mm-hmm. We went to college together, roommates for 4 years. I went for instrumental music education. So I started that fall of 2018 and then finished December of 2022. And then I long-term subbed last spring. And then I got my current job now where I'm teaching all the bands, 5 through 12 and 4th and 5th general music. I loved band in high school. It was a big part of my life. And I just knew I wanted to kind of create those memories for other students. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes. Very much like that. So, drama club as an activity brings a lot of people together. Would you agree?
I would agree. I would agree.
People from all flocks of life and, for different reasons, for wanting to join the drama club. What got you into drama club? All
right. So there's quite a story here. So my sister Emily was the reason for this. And
yes.
So she was in drama club for quite a while. She did she did one of the OMS shows, and then she did several OHS shows. And so the first time I saw her act was in Paper Bag Bandit, which is an OMS show I did as well a number of years later. So that was the first time I saw her perform. And then the first OHS show that I saw her in was Wizard of Oz. And that's, you probably remember seeing that too. Yes. We were in 6th grade. That was the first big production that I kind of fully remember, I guess you could say, because she was part of it. And she's someone who's a little bit more quiet around home, a little bit more introverted, a little awkward. And so on stage, she was one of the Munchkins and was super energetic, super outgoing, smiles, singing the songs. And I was like, wow, that's totally different than the Emily I know. Mm-hmm. And so that was one of the first inspirations. So that was 6th grade. So then the following year, 7th grade, when I was able to be in OMS, I did it right away. Mm-hmm. And so I did OMS. And the great thing about being in OMS Drama Club, obviously you kind of get your feet wet a little bit before OHS, but there's also high school helpers. And this is something I'll talk about later that I was involved with when I was a high schooler. So that even inspired me more to continue it. And I saw my sister in more and more plays. And the one that kind of was the final one that I was like, for sure I'm going to do this, was The Music Man.
That's right. One
of my favorite all-time productions of all time. Love it. Saw it live at Chanhassen a few years ago, and one of my favorite musicals. So that was the one. That was when we were in 8th grade, and that was like, all right, I'm doing that. So then the next year was Robin Hood, and I was a freshman and did all of them after that. Yeah.
Yes, I think The Music Man was also another one of my big inspirations from that. I really loved that musical so much, and the story of it very much spoke to me. Yeah. And that kind of like shows the importance of showing the OMS like drama club, you know, these performances, you know, like we use, you know, the OMS drama club as a practice show in some ways, you know, but it kind of really does, you know, at least for me and for you, I would say it very much like inspired us to also join the drama club, you know, later in high school.
Absolutely. It's, you know, they're not very intense shows. They're like 30 minutes, but it's a great way to still get your feet wet. What was super fun about it too was I mentioned how there's high school helpers. Sometimes, let's say there's a student gone. Sometimes then a high school helper would kind of fill in for that part. So you got to actually act with them, which I really enjoyed that because you kind of get to see that level of excellence even in a middle school play. That was a great way to start it all. Yeah.
Yes. So you've been known all throughout high school as someone who memorizes their plays very early on.
I had a feeling you were going to bring this up.
Yes. And I'd like to know, you know, kind of your process behind it and why you take the time to do this so early on in a production and, you know, like what benefits did that add for it as like a whole?
Yeah. Memorizing your lines is the work you don't want to do, but you got to do what you don't want to do before you do what you want to do, right? And so there's actually a bit of an extra story that I haven't told you this before that goes into why I memorize lines so early. So, because I had a feeling you were going to bring this up because this is always a running joke. Josiah's already got his lines memorized, you know,
all done.
Whatever. And, but actually, basically early on in school, I always struggled with reading. And I just hated reading out loud. It was embarrassing to me. I just got self-conscious. I'm like, oh, what if I don't know a word, you know, whatever. By late high school, I was kind of over that. But especially early on in middle school drama and early on in high school, I just got self-conscious about it. And I was just never wanted to read aloud. So I was always like, auditions were always hard because it was a cold read. And I wanted to have my, you know, energy, but then I'm worried about, you know, words. So that actually has something to do with memorizing quickly, because what I would do as soon as I got a script, I would obviously go home and not memorize right away, but I would highlight all my lines, and then I would read all of my lines and make sure there were 0 words that I didn't know how to pronounce, like as soon as I could.
True. Yes,
as soon as I could, because and what would happen, you know, I might like figure out how to pronounce it. And then I just leave it, and then 24 hours later, I forget. You know, so I had to do it a number of times. And so then I just sort of realized, like, I could memorize, like, really quickly. And I you know, the message of the fun happens after you're off script spoke to me, and I just wanted to get off. And so my method of memorizing was I think a lot of people do this. I would basically record the entire scene on my phone, all the lines in a scene except mine, leave spaces for my lines, and then I would kind of just play the recording and then fill in the gaps right where my lines are supposed to be. And what that does, and I'll talk about this more later too, what that allowed me to do is memorize the entire scene. Because usually the method, most especially early on in acting or whatever, you're kind of told, all right, memorize your cue lines and your lines.
Yes.
There is a different level of acting you're able to reach when you memorize a full scene, because you know the flow of the scene. And being able to actually react and go with the flow of the scene, know where it's going, and not just reacting to your line or the line that you come after, just your cue lines. You're able to do so much more as an actor when you're not actually speaking. And just your presence. And so I would try to get it done in a week and a half to 2 weeks. And oftentimes, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I was just like, sometimes I would have more lines than many, and I was getting it done than some people that had 20 lines. And I'm like,
that's true.
What are you guys doing? I'm like, anyway.
They're doing their best. They're doing their best. They got it done.
They got it done.
They did get it done. Yeah.
But, yeah, I did kind of enjoy the process, but I was doing it to get to where I could actually focus on line delivery.
Yes.
Actually, what emotions are going into each line, how am I, all those different things. So much they're more important to the overall performance than just having your lines memorized.
Yes. By memorizing your lines, you're able to spend more time with the things that matter kind of like the most, with like the feeling and like how your movements and, you know, reactions and stuff like that. That's very much important. Yeah. So would you say that learning your lines is what you look forward to the most in a production? And if not, you know, what is?
No, it's not the thing.
Not at all?
No.
Okay.
I mean, like I mentioned, you got to do what you have to do before you do what you want to do.
For sure.
You know, and memorizing your lines, that's kind of the work you got to do right away.
Yes.
You know, to me, I looked at it this way. We had about a 2-month season-ish for each play. And so I was like, okay, if most people take the first month to memorize, like that's 50% where I'm not off script. And I just didn't feel right about it. And so my goal was always under 2 weeks. And after that, I was able to get into those other areas, which my favorite part of developing a character was, you know, actually figuring out how I'm going to phrase certain lines, how I'm going, you know, what emotions I'm going to put into certain things, all the different phrasing things that you work on. You kind of work on them while you're memorizing, but it's not the first focus at the time, right? And so, but, you know, as far as putting on a production, rehearsals, putting in our own unique twists on things, putting in maybe their inside jokes, where your shovel jokes, whatever it may be, all those fun memories, all the laughs and things. I remember, particularly when I was just kind of reflecting this week, Monday Always Leads to Murder was some of the funnest rehearsals. And I remember there's so many that we just could not stop laughing.
I agree.
Yeah. So you know, just things like those are the memories those were my favorite parts of putting the productions together. Yeah.
They're very special moments that will always hold with us. Yeah. So memorizing your lines and taking the time to do that before the actual, you know, like kind of, you know, pre-production and everything like that. It takes a lot of time to do that. And what keeps you motivated to continue this level of excellence, you know, like all the way through high school and, you know, even maybe this might even help, you know, like in your actual life.
Yeah. You know, it was a passion, you know, and that was what it was all about, you know, that, you know, you got to work hard at your passions and it'll pay off. And I knew that I wanted to do well. I knew that I wanted this, you know, all of our productions to be a team effort, and I wanted to be a leader in those experiences. And I worked hard so that I feel that, you know, I was also kind of chasing some hopeful opportunities in the future and wanted to set myself up as a good example early on, you know, so I would, you know, do things like memorize, you know, early and, you know, follow directions, you know, try to do all those things so that I was, you know, showing that I was a good example and I was trying to be a leader. So all those things, and it comes down to a passion for the arts, passion for music, passion for performing. And, you know, those are the things that kind of, you know, bring meaning to my life, you know? And so they're always going to be memories that I look back on. So I think that would kind of cover most of that. As far as continuing the level of excellence, what motivated throughout, I mean, just the new opportunities that were coming out too.
Oh, yes.
You know, because, you know, we started out, you know, with one of the Merry Men or whatever we were in Robin Hood. And then I, you know, I worked hard because I knew, you know, I was getting some bigger opportunities. I'm like, and then we found out some of the, you know, we were doing Beauty and the Beast, and I'm like, okay, now I got to work hard and show that I can do well in the smaller parts so that I can possibly get, you know, the Beast, you know, so those were some motivators. And then, you know, it comes down to a passion for the arts.
Yes. And, you know, like setting that good example also, I think, helped you with the middle school. Didn't you help out with the middle school for a little bit? You know, like when Mr. Carlson couldn't, or, you know, you kind of helped out with the directing and, you know. Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
I loved helping with middle school.
Yes.
You know, I you know, now I'm teaching all sorts of grades. Middle school,
very much,
Middle school is an underrated grade to teach.
Yeah.
They are full of energy. They're random. They're goofy. And they're fun to be around.
Yes,
Now you
yes.
got behavior problems sometimes, but
Yes, you got to round them all up.
You got to round them up. You got to keep them. You got to, maintain control at times, but it's fun.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I did all 4 years. I helped with OMS shows. And, usually that would involve me, helping and maybe filling in for a part
Yes.
or helping with props, whatever it may be, help with memorizing lines. Who knows?
Yeah.
But the last year, senior year, which would have been the winter between Beauty and the Beast and Beatles Slept Here, the winter between those, Mr. Carlson wasn't as available during that time. And so he asked me for a few of the rehearsals to actually lead them. And I did the warm-ups. I did, directed them through the play and stuff.
Yeah.
So
It's a very good experience.
So that was a great experience because I knew at the time that I was going into teaching as well.
Yes.
And so I really enjoyed being in that role and kind of getting a taste of that, teacher experience. And the students responded to it well. And it was a fun group to work with. Yeah. So, I loved helping with OMS. And I remember, and I knew when I was part of OMS that I wanted to be one of the high school helpers. I've always had this vision of creating the memories that I had for others. That's, big reason why I'm teaching band, why I loved doing theater, doing drama club, helping with OMS shows, creating those memories for others, for younger students.
Continuing like the next generation of, performers and actors and, making sure that they have people to look up to and, to achieve, strive for. By saying all that, it shows the importance of setting a good example. Who would you say is something or someone that you looked up to during OHS Drama Club? And, what did that shape you into later junior and senior year?
Josiah Medrick.
He
was Robin Hood. And what was really good about he was someone that he would pull me aside and he would give me advice and tips often. Yeah.
Nice.
And so what was cool about Robin Hood, and you probably kind of experienced this too. I know we were kind of in different groups, but what was cool about it was we were involved heavily in the play, but we didn't have a lot of lines. So we were able to be on stage and witness the excellence of the older students, but it's not necessarily relied upon us as much at that time because we're still new to it. And so watching him just run away with his role of Robin Hood and Sherlock Holmes that spring, he was one that I looked up to quite a bit. He was funny. He took risks as a performer, which I'll talk about that in a little bit. And then Gabe Feltz was another one. Yeah, he was Harold Hill in The Music Man, and I can't remember his role in Robin Hood. He was the villain.
He was the villain guy.
I can't remember the name, but those were two that I looked up to quite a bit that freshman year. And then I would say one more who was kind of a newer join would be Ben Mickelson. And Ben Mickelson was 2 grades ahead of us. And so we performed with him that following year as sophomores as well. He was Dauntless and Once Upon a Mattress, and then Harry Monday and Monday Always Leads to Murder. And what I loved about him, and Noah, who was in our grade too, but particularly with Ben, he would improv and take risks as a performer, and just really put himself into his roles. As for me, especially early on, I learned my lines. I tried to be in character the best I could. I didn't really take risks as a character. I tried to just kind of do exactly what I was going to do every time. And with him, I always had, and Monday Always Leads to Murder, we had a lot of scenes together. I was the Officer Brogan. And he had a lot of lines. He had, I think, over 300 lines. And that's a lot. Just to put in perspective, I don't even think Bell had that many. I think Bell had like 200. So he was literally on stage for all but like one scene or something, like half a scene. And so that play was so much fun, but he had a lot on his shoulders. So you really never knew how he was going to deliver a line. And so that's another reason, going back to memorizing your lines, why you should have a whole scene memorized, because you never know what's going to happen. But he was so fun. So those were 3 that really helped me to loosen up a little bit as a performer, and take some risks and try things and not be afraid of being a little goofy and things like that. Those would be my three.
Yeah. I would say, Gabe, Ben, and Josiah, they really showed me also like the fun side of Drama Club.
Yeah.
And, the more goofy side. One of my like moments that I remember so vividly is Josiah and Gabe in Robin Hood.
Oh.
And right at the end, not only did they decide to add like a dance battle to it that, Mr. Carlson approved and was absolutely genius. It was hilarious. But that's, just kind of like the funny nature of that. But also the, improv, because I remember the last performance of Robin Hood, the swords broke. And I remember Josiah literally just pick up his sword, even though there's no hilt on it. He just dual wielding two swords.
Like I remember seeing this because Gabe was the one that broke it, and he broke it. He's like, "Ha!" or something like that. I was like, dude, like that's why you need to loosen up and like be a little free as a performer. So that is the big lessons I learned from those three.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then with Ben, he had so many lines in that it was play,
insane.
In that play.
Insane.
And seeing a guy like that be able to achieve something like that, to his absolute best ability.
He was awesome.
And that was just unreal. Very, very good role model to look up to. He tried his absolute best to get all of those lines memorized.
And he did it.
Maybe that, maybe I could do something like that someday. It's just kind of like, it was so kind of inspiring, and I really loved it.
I loved because the cool thing was freshman year, I witnessed Gabe and Josiah a lot. I didn't necessarily act like conversation with them. I was in a lot of the scenes as one of the merry men or whatever, but I didn't necessarily have conversation with them too often, right? But with Ben being I was Officer Brogan, we had a lot of scenes together, and it was like then I was able to actually interact with an actor that had that ability, and it really helped me quite a bit. The scene, we were talking about this just before this that I wanted to bring up, and I kind of totally forgot it existed, was the whole like detective questioning in the audience at the end. Do you remember that? Yeah, we were talking about this too.
I remember this.
And so it was like there was improv put in, and there was like planted people in the audience, and they would grab a mic and like ask a question about the case or whatever.
Yes.
And I remember there was like one part where he's like said some insult about me, and I had to like look at him like do this like mad look at him.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It just acting with him was so fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like those working with the audience too. That was also just really fun and kind of adds a little bit of uniqueness to every single performance.
That was always one of my favorite things is when we had scenes in the audience.
Yes,
it was so fun
interacting with the audience. There was a few of those that I saw. That we even participated.
Do you remember when? It was Ben again in I'm in love with a girl named Fred. And he like would go into the audience and like it would be pitch dark and he would be like in someone's face with the light cam. I'm in love with a girl named Fred. Like right in their face.
Oh, I love that. Yes.
Oh, yeah, good times. Those would be my
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
That was very good. So moving on from that. I got a very spicy question for you, Josiah. Maybe you might know the answer, but maybe not. What is your favorite? That was weird. Okay. What is your favorite? Okay.
You know the rules.
I know the rules.
You know the rules.
I am now going to rephrase that question.
Yes, please do.
Into something better and more unique. Fine. I think we all might know the answer to this, but maybe you might have something different. What is a role that means the most to you, and why?
Oh, well, the role that means the most to me.
Yes.
Probably the Beast. If it's hard, yes. Okay. Yep. I mean, it's the obvious answer.
Yes.
It's really close to with Westley. Mm-hmm. But I'd say Beast. And the reason was that was a performance we knew was coming. Mm-hmm. And I worked really hard on. to prepare for. So 2 years prior to that, Once Upon a Mattress, I had my first solo singing role. My voice wasn't fully developed. I was able to sing in tune, but it wasn't the strongest singing voice. And so the next 2 years, what I worked on was my tone, and I worked on being able to create, have my baritone timbre in the high register, which you need to do as the Beast. You need to be able to create that low timbre and those higher notes, especially in the song If I Can't Love Her. He has a big baritone ending. You can't really have that be up in your head voice. It's got to be from down here. And so I worked a lot on that, and it really, I think, paid off in a successful way, and I'm very proud of that performance. It was one that, I never really imagined getting the Beast when I was a freshman. I never imagined getting a lead role when I was even a sophomore. And so to get that was just this ultimate achievement. And the cast that was surrounded and the play was just, we talked about it last time, it was just perfect. I loved the story that the Beast goes through, his story of redemption. He has the internal transformation as well as the external at the end. And I loved figuring out, figuring out how to soften myself over time as the Beast, coming out super angry and tense. And there's lines where he's sad. There's lines where he's lost all hope and everything. And it all boils into the song If I Can't Love Her, which was my favorite thing to perform in all of Drama Club. That whole scene, starting with the don't touch that whole sequence, there's so much in there in such a short time, because he realizes that he just pushed away his final hope, and he might at that point never get her back. And then he sings the song If I Can't Love Her, which was a song I prepared. I really practiced. I really wanted to do it, and it was a big reason. One of the big reasons I wanted the Beast, on top of his story of redemption. And I loved the humor he had. There's so much to him trying to be a gentleman. I loved all that stuff when he doesn't know how to be like a gentleman, and he's trying to push the chair in, all those little things where he's kind of just, he doesn't know, but he's trying really hard. And that, I loved his progression, and I loved figuring out how to become that.
No pain could be deeper, no life could be cheaper, no point anymore if I can't love her. No spirit could be near, no hope left within, if all mine could have comfort, and that should set me free. But it's not to be if I can't love her. Let the world be done with me.
I feel like by the end of our senior year, we all kind of had roles that kind of meant a lot to us, and that really suited us. I think, and I feel like you put in a lot of effort into all throughout OHS Drama Club, and I think you were a great choice for the Beast.
Thank
so
you
did a very good.
It's close, but I was debating between that and Westley. That's why I was a little unsure at first, but. There's something about that, because we knew about it for so long, and we were working up to it for so long, and I was preparing so much in my singing voice for it. Yeah. And the 2 years of growth that I had, I think, was pretty significant in that time.
Yeah. So even going off of that, what is there? You put a lot of work into the Beast and everything. Would you say that was the biggest challenge you've had to overcome as an actor?
No.
Or would you? No?
No.
What would that be?
Not quite.
I would very much like to know your biggest challenge.
I think you might know
the Beast, that does sound very challenging, but I'd like to know what else you got.
as far as a role to
Oh,
play,
yes.
probably.
Well, yes.
But as a performer,
yes.
there was something that was a little more challenging for me.
Okay.
You might know
You
the
might
story
know.
I'm about to tell.
Yes.
The story of Josiah Vitalis, the not so good MC.
Oh, you're talking about this. I did not think that. Okay. Yeah.
So, to preface this, I talked earlier about how I looked up to Josiah and Gabe,
Yes.
and their MC abilities was one of the things I admired.
Very much so.
They were funny, they were improv, they were sharp, they were able to bounce off each other. So anyway, the following year, I got the role of Harry in Once Upon a Mattress. I got the seating role, I got this big part. I'm like, all right, I'm going to try to MC. And so at the OMS shows, they have a small talent show before the show, because the shows are like 30 minutes. So if there's any OMS talent show folks that want to perform before the actual play, they could. And they would have an MC, high school student, a couple high school students. And it was Lindsay and I pretty much thought that
You could do it.
I could just do it without
just
any
do
play.
it.
I really thought this.
We kind of thrive off of, improv and, being able to bounce
I don't.
off each. Oh, well.
I do
this
not.
is something we learned more, later on. But
Yeah.
yeah, tell me more. Yeah.
Yes. So anyway, it just didn't go well.
Yes.
Luckily, it was just a middle school play audience, so I doubt anyone remembers. But it was devastating at the time, and so I mean, there was just awkward pauses. It was just I didn't know what I was doing, whatever. And so I actually did text Gabe that night. I sent him a message on Facebook.
Really?
I just said, I just MC'd for the first time. It didn't go well. Do you have any advice for me? And he actually gave me a nice response. I can't remember exactly what it said, but
Okay.
one of the things he said was, if you don't have anything, don't be afraid to just introduce the next act.
True.
And I was like, okay. So
yeah.
that's pretty much what my
Sometimes
default
we
would.
think so much about how am I going to transition this so well, and that might cause pauses and might cause disruptions.
Yeah.
But sometimes just going
So
on to the next one.
Then the following night, the second OMS show, much better. But then a few weeks later in March, the variety show, one of my favorite events in the year, and in that show, it was their MCs were me and Lindsay, and then Ben Mickelson and Noah, and that helped significantly because you had Ben and Noah who are able to do the improv, able to be goofy, and no longer am I being the one that you bounce off of. I can bounce off of them, and so that helped me again loosen up as a performer. I tend to just go by the script, and I'll do things as directed. I'll put in my own flavor in my lines and things. But I don't go off the script. Yeah, I don't. Some people do. I just don't. So that's why I struggle with that. But by junior and senior year, I did pretty well with it. Yeah. I had some pretty good MC moments, some pretty good improv moments over the years. Working on the railroad was kind of my go-to. I've been working. And then Noah would steal it. And I'm like, that was my really? He stole it the last year. I'm like, dude, that's my go-to. Now what am I going to do?
Right now, Jamie's only completely different. Josiah is going to enter. He has the first line. Ready, go.
I'm working on the railroad.
Continue in slow motion.
I've been working on the railroad.
Because that is the only thing that would go through my head in improv was, what am I going to do? I don't have any ideas. I'm not good at improv. And I'm not good at being the comic relief character. And these were my biggest things that I don't feel like I'm gifted at. Yeah. What I felt I was gifted at was being able to dive into some deeper emotions and be able to showcase that into a character. Those were things that I felt I was naturally gifted at as a performer. Yeah. They were still challenging. The Beast was a very challenging role. Definitely the most challenging role that I had. But as far as overcoming as a performer, there's a little bit of a reality check that I can't do it all. Yeah. And there's gifts that everyone has their own gifts, and we all work together and that's why there's not the same role for
Yeah.
the entire play. You know, everyone's a little bit different and it requires a different set of gifts.
Yeah, I remember Mr. Carlson saying this, and he was talking about how he would go to these plays, and they'd have these sad endings and stuff, and you're kind of a little emotionally like devastated like at the end of it, but still very good performance and everything. But then he'd see these comedies, and I remember him saying that comedies are some of the hardest things to do, like as a performer, and how to get right, and make sure the audience is laughing, and it's bouncing off you, and that is very interesting to deal with, and we all have different strengths and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I remember that now.
Yeah.
Now that you say that, comedy's hard.
Yes.
It's and know, I'm pretty decent at doing sarcasm.
Yes.
I'm good at doing that, like the Westley's humor stuff throughout. I think I delivered that well. There's just different types of humor, like the slapstick, funny, comic relief guy.
Yeah.
I'm not good at that.
But can you be sardonic?
What was that? Is it an ironic?
I forgot what sardonic means. Sorry.
Well,
Mr.
no, it
Carlson.
just reminded me of the ironic sound.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that kind of you were talking about earlier about being able to bounce off a bunch of different people, and that kind of reminds us of the last episode where Ollie, him as a singer, was improved by being able to bounce off other people.
Yep.
And, like singing by himself might not have been, his best strong suit, similar as with you with, like improv or something like that. But being able to bounce off people and know the energy and have friends that, you're very close with and, be able to bounce off of, that's very important. And, just kind of a nice thing to keep in mind.
Absolutely. Ollie was, I remember the first time hearing him sing that little sequence he has in the bell song at the beginning. I can't remember how it goes. It's right after right from the moment when I met her. Sorry.
Yes.
That and I remember hearing that the first time. I was like, wow, that was like sounded good. It was in tune, and it was good. And so he worked hard, and Noah did too. And we talked about. I don't want to dive too deep into it because we discussed it a lot last week. But that was one where him with you and Kian and Maison de Lune was a big difference. Yeah. And it was a beautiful match.
Just the importance of being able to bounce off people, and it kind of elevates people. I like that.
Yeah.
After that, what's a role that you would like to do again? I know you very much like the Beast. Is this a role you would like to do again?
If I could do a role again,
yes,
it's actually a different answer than.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. It'd be Westley.
Wesley.
It would be Wesley.
Okay. Yes.
It would be Wesley. The Beast I kind of view as a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Okay.
In a way. Not that I would reject it necessarily if it ended up coming that way, but Wesley was this character that had so many different personas to him. He had his Wesley side where he's passionate, romantic, and heroic, but then he has his Dread Pirate Roberts side where he's this great swordsman. He's quick-witted, clever, sarcastic, outsmarts everyone. And so there was all these different ways I had to deliver his lines. And he had some longer lines, like he would have like these paragraphs of telling stories, and like it would change, like the way he would speak and change, and his emotion would change throughout that line. And I had to figure that out. So I used the movie as a reference quite a bit in that. And so Wesley it was a special role. It was, one I didn't fully expect to get. I don't want to say I expected the Beast, but I felt it was a likely opportunity. But the Wesley, I was still a junior, and there was a lot of people. I never had a lead role, but it ended up coming to me, and I, was able to really develop those deeper emotions, which is my favorite thing to do as an actor, is to dive into deeper emotions and sadness and anger and all those different things. But at the same time, Wesley's humor really, I think, worked with me in a good way, where he's always outsmarting. I love, my favorite section of his is the the 3 battles at the beginning with Fezzik, Inigo Montoya, and Vizzini.
Yes.
Those are probably my favorite 3 scenes. And he you always know that he's one step ahead of whoever he's fighting, right? Especially Vizzini, the Battle of Wits. Me and Josh doing that with Josh was so good. Yeah. And it's so much fun to act with him. And we'll talk about a few other things in that particular play, I assume, in a little bit that were referenced last time. But yeah, Westley.
Yeah. Okay. That's a very fair choice.
Yeah.
I very much like that.
Yeah.
You were talking about, the humor of Westley and humor in general. But what were some of the most funniest moments that have occurred in Drama Club? We're getting pretty close to the end, but, I'd really much like to hear some of the stories, personal stories that you found very funny.
Oh, yes. Well, let's start with what was referenced last time.
Okay. Oh, yes.
I've been thinking, because I knew I was going to give this story.
Yes.
I've been thinking about how I'm going to deliver the story in a way that paints the picture of what I was going through in that moment.
Okay.
So let's just preface this with, it was a joke night performance of The Princess Bride, which, if you don't remember, that's the last performance. You can throw in a few references, gags, little, subtle differences to just add a little bit extra fun to the last performance or whatever. The big thing, though, that was emphasized was that you needed to communicate with everybody in the scene of what's going to happen.
They did that, right?
No, they did not. And the reason they did is because my line wasn't technically impacted in the exchange, but it was by far the funniest joke night they'd ever come up with. And, I needed a warning of what was coming. Now, so anyway, Andrew Monpettit was part of this, and he played I don't know what you call the wedding person. Anyway, the marriage guy, probably the most popular scene of the movie, probably.
Yes.
And so he did that scene, did it brilliantly, super funny, perfect for the part, right? And so anyway, a little bit later in the play, Buttercup finds Westley and he's captured. He's still at the state where he can't move his arms and whatnot, and he's laying in the bed. And Buttercup comes up to him and she's like, "Oh, I got married. It all happened so fast, blah, blah, blah." And Westley keeps telling her it didn't happen. She's like, "What? It didn't happen." And then she says the line, and I believe this is how it's said, "But it did. I was there. This old man said man and wife." I believe that's the original line. So that's what Buttercup is supposed to tell me. And remember, this is this romantic, coming together moment for the first time in quite a while in the play. They hadn't seen each other. And Westley was quote unquote dead for a while. I mean, this was the moment. And so instead of man and wife at the end of that line, Andrew Monpettit, who is backstage, yells marriage instead. And so the line went, "But it did. I was there. This old man said marriage." And my heart just started beating. I remember being there. And I remember, I'm trying to be, this romantic scene. I'm trying to look her in the eyes and whatnot. And I remember intentionally not looking her in the eyes because I knew if I made eye contact, I would start laughing. Yeah. Because all I'm thinking at that point is do not laugh. Do not laugh. That is the only thing I'm thinking. And so, then by the way, this is not the only thing that happened in that scene.
Yeah.
And so anyway, that happened, and I'm trying just not to laugh. Luckily, I'm laying down, so no one said that they noticed that I was holding anything back or anything. So I'm glad I stuck it out. But anyway, what happened after that is there's the whole scene where Humperdinck comes and, there's the exchange, where they go back and forth, and eventually it's the drop your sword, right? And I go up and do the drop your sword, the intense final showdown with Humperdinck, and instead Ollie, who played Humperdinck, comes out with a rubber chicken as his sword. Now, in all, basically, if that was the only thing that happened was the rubber chicken, I would have been fine, because the rubber chicken in all things wasn't that funny. Right. I mean, it was funny, but I could have gotten through that without a problem. Yeah. It was the fact that I just put up with that marriage that I just now this is like an extra thing.
Ooh.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
It's like it's kind of like a comedian. You gotta give them a really good joke and then a less funny one will still make them laugh a lot, right? And so that was by far, maybe you know what? That was my biggest challenge as a performer.
See, that's what I thought you were going to say for your biggest challenge.
But did you?
That's what I
that
was
one,
thinking. Yes,
one
that
minute
one
moment.
That one moment changed your life forever.
I will say it was challenging. But
Yes.
anyway, if they're still doing joke nights, let everyone in the scene know because
Yes.
not everyone could hold it together.
That rubber chicken.
That was in everything.
That actually, that reminded me of
yeah,
something that I forgot to actually mention last episode. And was really cool. It even made it up into the DVD release of Beauty and the Beast. On that joke night, during the curtain call, it was my turn to go on stage with Gaston, give him a big old hug. But we actually decided to change it up a little bit for the last day. And I came in with Gaston's gun, running in. I shoot the. This was also like a very last minute thing, and I was so afraid. I did not know how this was gonna end up, if it was even gonna work, or how this would plan out. But it somehow went perfectly. And Gaston, Ollie, he hit the big piece of metal like in the background as soon as I, launched the gun, and then a chicken fell, and it was perfect. It was cool. Yeah.
Oh, that was a good one. That rubber chicken, and then there was like a little giraffe that was like. You remember? There was like these little things that like kept like making their way into. Yeah. Oh man! So another story. Was during Monday Always Leads to Murder. Yes. And I mentioned earlier how those were some of the funniest rehearsals. And one of the funnest scenes, and I hope we can get Keen on here to dive deeper into this.
I love Keen on here.
Was his death scene.
Oh, yeah.
Where he would basically like the whole joke was like he was almost dying. He like died, and then he would like come back to life and give us like one more hint about the case or whatever it was, the mystery. And then he would die again and like come back. And I just remember that we could not like hold it together until like 2 weeks before the play, probably. Like we were kept like just cracking up every single time he would come back. I want to have him on here, but that was one of the funniest moments, I think, that whole exchange. And then also there was a funny rehearsal thing. And I think there's actually a video of it where we decided to have Ben bench press Kian.
Oh,
do you remember this?
I think I remember this.
I don't know what it was with that play in particular, that we would just kind of get off track a little bit sometimes. Like it never happened to the other one. There's something about that where we just like would all just start laughing. And then, but yeah, there's a video of we're all like on the sides, like spotting him, and he's like bench pressing Kian up. That's amazing. There was so many ones where we just couldn't hold it together. I remember there's another video out there. I don't know. I think Mr. Carlson probably took it, where like we couldn't get past the same line because we kept laughing, and then I was jokingly trying to keep the scene going, and I like said Lindsay's line in like a falsetto, high pitched voice. Those were some of the funnest rehearsals, just for like pure, just funny, hilarious stuff. Yeah, so many good stuff.
Yeah, a lot of really funny moments.
Yeah,
but. Enough jokes. This is a serious podcast, Joe.
Sorry.
We cannot be having this much fun on a podcast.
That's right. That's right.
Let's get back to serious business where I ask you our final question before we wrap things up.
Oh, man.
There's a lot of things that Drama Club did for us. What did Drama Club do to change you?
Oh, man. Loaded question, and I knew it was coming.
Uh-huh.
So, the biggest thing is it loosened me up a little bit. We talked about that.
Loosey-goosey.
That was the big thing, right? It allowed me to expand my horizons as far as performing. I never expected, we talked about this last time, never expected to have a lead role early on. Never expected to be one of the freshman 4 leaders, whatever. I mean, I never expected that. And I chased something that I was passionate for. And I was seeing, when I put in the hard work and I allow myself to step into what my gifts are, it pays off.
Yeah.
You know, and I am thankful, so thankful for those opportunities of Westley and the Beast, especially in all the roles, really, all of them. I especially I'm just grateful for it. I mean, the friends we made. I don't think that our friend group would be what it is today without Drama Club.
Yeah.
I think that I would still be
brought us
close.
together.
I think I'd still be close with you and Ryan, and I don't think it would be the same.
Yeah.
And so that, I mean, it changed me as a performer. It built me in confidence, of course, but it provided so many lifelong friendships, you know, and memories that I'm always going to look back on forever. You know, the Beast singing the song "If I Can't Love Her." I saw it live, and I thought, you know, I want to do that, and being able to do that a couple years later, you know, seeing the movie The Princess Bride during the summer before, and then getting the role of Westley, you know, those were just big things. And then seeing younger students come up and being able to step into that teaching role a little bit. I loved that, you know, as a, you know, helping out with the OMS shows and being able to kind of be a little bit in that director role a little bit and experience that teacher side of things a little bit while I knew I was going into instrumental music ed. Those were all big things, and it was by far the most impactful. Well, I don't want by far. Band was pretty impactful too, but a big, huge impact on my life. It's something I will never forget. There's so much more we could dive down, but that would be just a little bit of how it's changed me.
Yes, very well said. We really had a bond that can never be broken with our friend group and Drama Club in general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was, you know, we had so many. We had 12 seniors in the end.
Yes.
And
12 seniors.
And I want to talk about this a little bit, because we didn't really get to it last time.
Sure.
And, the Beatles Slept Here.
Yes.
Final performance.
Yes.
That was handled so well by Mr. Carlson. And because what ended up happening, there was a snowstorm in April, of course, when we were performing, and we were scheduled to have a 2:00 and a 7:00 performance on that Sunday. And we were in the middle of our 2:00 performance, and I remember looking outside when I was able to and seeing the snow come down. And then we were at the end of the first act, and Mr. Carlson pulled us all in the choir room. Yeah. And he basically told us he was pretty much forced to cancel the 7:00 show. And for all the seniors, this is your last shot, you know, to go out there and do your best. Yeah. You know,
12 shots.
And knowing that, we were able to actually go in with the mindset that this is the end, which we needed that. Because imagine the difference if we would have been canceled after. It just wouldn't have had the same impact, because we thought we were in the mindset, oh, we're not done yet. We still have one more. Yeah. So I was so thankful for that. And I actually remember there's a video of it. We extended our intermission a little bit, and we sang through Hallelujah during the intermission. And Lindsay, Brecken, and I sang the verses like we did at the variety show, and then we all joined in on the chorus. And that is one of the sweetest moments of Drama Club. That's all what it's about, the family, the bringing everyone together. That moment is what Drama Club's all about to me. And then going out there and giving it that final shot. I remember just in my head every single scene. That was it. That was it. And then that final curtain call. Yeah. We talked about it a little bit, but that curtain call, I think, might have been, besides, performing If I Can't Love Her and Beauty and the Beast was my favorite individual thing to perform. Yeah. But the final curtain call of Beatles Slept Here was so well done, so well put together. Yeah. The songs just transitioned so well. something about the Carry That Weight and watching Noah walk off stage to the beat. And it just brings tears.
You always bring that up whenever you say that. Just the Carry That Weight, the way he walks.
The way he walks,
It just feels emotional.
It really does.
Yeah.
And
I feel that whenever I see that video, I'm just like, I remember.
And then, of course, the Hey Jude at the end.
Hey Jude.
And, that was kind of our final senior moment. And we all held hands and did our final bow. And then we went in the audience and sang the song. And oh, my gosh. And that was kind of our final thing. And I was so thankful that we knew that was the last time. Because obviously you never want it to be the last time, but you want to know when it is, when it's something like that. And
yeah, and then going into the audience and singing Hey Jude at the end, and then going to meet with the audience, back at, that's super important. Meeting with the audience, saying hi. These people love your characters, and they want to, say hi to you, and meeting with family and stuff, and that, really was super special, especially for
those were some of the most special moments was after the plays.
Yes.
I almost looked forward to those.
Honestly,
a little bit. I mean, I love those moments, like celebrating the memories that just happened, celebrating our successes, because it's
you want them to be proud of you,
right?
You want to show them.
Yeah. And even when things happened, when there were, whether it be the transformation not working one night or something else, we always pulled it together, and we always went with the flow, and pretty much always had professionalism throughout. And we had some performances worth celebrating.
Yes. Very well said. It's a very nice way of ending this off.
Yeah.
But lastly, at the end of every episode of the Actor Studio podcast, we have one little segment we call The Cues We Miss. Now, when we're in Drama Club, you never want to miss your cues. Am I right?
That's right. That's right.
These are some cues that we miss responding to. Today, Josiah will be revisiting his past role as Westley, and I will be reading the role of Humperdinck.
All right, let's see it.
I've got a little scene for you, Josiah.
Okay, I can't wait.
There you are.
Okay.
I think
this is actually the scene we were talking about. This is the scene with Andrew. This is the joke night scene. Well, this was right after that.
Yes. Yes.
But wow, this is literally that scene. This is what I was telling you about earlier with the joke night thing.
Yes.
This is that part. This was part of that. Anyway.
Yes. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Action.
Then you're not married. If you didn't say it, you didn't do it. Wouldn't you agree, Your Highness?
A technicality that will shortly be remedied. But first things first. To the death.
No! To the pain.
I don't think I'm quite familiar with that phrase.
I'll explain, and I'll use small words so that you'll be sure to understand, you wart-hogged face buffoon.
That may be the first time in my life as a man, or a man who dared insult me.
It won't be the last. To the pain means the first thing you will lose will be your feet below the ankles. Then your hands at the wrists. And next your nose.
And then my tongue, I suppose. I killed you too quickly the last time. A mistake I don't mean to duplicate tonight.
I wasn't finished. The next thing you will lose will be your left eye, followed by your right.
And then my ears. I understand. Let's get on with this.
Wrong! Your ears you will keep, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
So that every shriek of every child at seeing your hideousness will be yours to cherish. Every babe that weeps at your approach, every woman who cries out, "Dear God, what is that thing?" will echo in your perfect ears. That is what to the pain means. It means I leave you in anguish, wallowing in your freakish misery forever.
I think you're bluffing.
It's possible, pig. I might be bluffing. It's conceivable, you miserable, vomitous mass, that I'm only lying here because I lack the strength to stand. Then again, perhaps I have the strength after all. Drop your sword. And there goes the rubber chicken, folks.
There goes the rubber chicken.
Oh, that was a good point.
I love that.
That's a good scene.
That's a great scene.
I love
oh
it.
My goodness.
That'd be so fun to do that one again.
Yeah,
that'd be a great alumni play. Maybe. Who knows?
But yes, this has been the Actors Studio podcast. I think we got a lot done. Very good discussions.
Yeah.
And there's one last thing, we need to say.
Yes.
As you know, this is a monthly podcast. Every month we are going to be getting new episodes to you with new additions too.
Yeah.
And should we tell them who our next guest
We'll
will be?
we'll just tell you you're going to be very, very happy with our next guest.
Yes, you're going to be very happy. They are very funny, very entertaining. I think you're going to love it. But yes, from this point on, now that we have interviewed each other, we're going to be opening it up to the public. If you would like to be on the Actors Studio podcast, let us know in the comments,
Or reach out, message one of us on Facebook or whatever.
Yes,
Yep.
we're going to try and get as many people as we can. We're going to try and do as many months as we can. Maybe if this becomes, if we, have some more time in these next coming months, we might even be able to do 2 in a month.
Yep.
But, it kind of depends. But we're very excited to continue
this
this.
is
This
awesome.
is the very beginning, and it's only going to get better from here.
Woo!
Thank you very much for watching. This has been the Actors Studio Podcast. Caleb and Josiah. See you later, guys.